I'm Ukes, and welcome back to our little series on the Novation Mininova. Every knob and button on this thing is designed to help you change and morph your sound as you play live or as you work on sound design. So let's look at some of those functions. First off, we have this just gigantic filter knob, like right in the middle of the synthesizer. This knob is typically routed to the filter frequency of the synthesizer, which, if you're not familiar with how synthesizers work, I'm not going to go too deeply into synthesis today, but it basically adjusts the frequency of the sound that you're hearing. In many ways, it works as an intensity knob. The actual function of this knob varies from patch to patch, and it can be changed, it can be mapped however you like. But like everything else, it depends on which preset you're using. But you can consider this knob as sort of the primary sound adjustment function on here. These 8 buttons here are lovingly called the performance buttons, right? This is a feature that is completely distinct to the Mininova. I've never really seen a synthesizer that works quite like this. These buttons each do something, right? It depends, again, which patch you're using, but they're meant to be kind of pressed on, off, and it changes the sound in some distinct and interesting way. So while you're performing, if you want to change the sound instantly without, dialing it on a knob, right? You can just very quickly hit one of these buttons right above the keyboard, very easy to reach, and they just strobe on and off, very, very easy. Of course, you can press multiple buttons at the same time to kind of really play with your sound. And above the 8 buttons, there's this handy dandy hold button. So if you want to hold down this button and not dedicate one of your hands to it, you can just press the hold and it will hold the button in place until you press it again. Very, very simple. These buttons make it very, very easy to adjust your sound on the fly. Now, if you're a bit more experienced in synthesis, you can head up here to the performance knobs, right? The basic parameters of your envelopes are hidden in here. Starting at the top, there are these 8 assignable tweak knobs, which have different functions depending on which patch you're using. But you also have basic, filter control, envelope control, amplitude envelope control, such as your ADSR. ADSR, for the non-synth users out there, is the most basic control you have over your synth sound, right? Attack, decay, sustain, release, ADSR. For example, attack is how quickly your note starts. It's that envelope, it's how quickly the sound ramps up to its full volume. This is an example of a quick attack. And this is a slow attack. Decay is the decay of the sound, how long it takes to get away from that top volume. Sustain is, how long it takes to sort of, sustain that note. And release is how long it takes the note to fade to silence after the note is pressed off. Quick example, right? Here's a quick release. And here's a much longer release. It's just a quick preview of what these knobs can do. It's a great way to explore kind of one parameter at a time, and you just you take this little slider here to go between the different controls of these knobs. It's pretty handy. To really get into synth building, you have to go into the menu over here. Going into edit, you have control over your 3 oscillators. You've got control over the mixing of those oscillators. You've got your filter controls. You've got your You've got your envelope controls. You've got your LFO, your voice control, your mod matrix. You can basically, using the mod matrix, you can map any single thing to any other thing. You can control the envelope with the performance button is you can use the big knob to control, anything. It takes a little bit of learning, and the menu diving isn't great. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's a pretty cool device, and you can really do so much with it once you really dive into it. And at the end of your session, if you like whatever it is you ended up making, or you want to save a different version of the synth you're working on, you just hit save. You can name it, and you can give it a slot and give it its type and its genre. Pretty handy stuff.